I'm Kirk Hanson, Executive Director of the Markkula Center for Applied Ethics at Santa Clara University. We're here today with a visitor, Greg Coplans, Executive Vice President for Corporate Affairs of Hitachi Data Systems. Hitachi Data Systems is a United States-based subsidiary of Hitachi Limited of Japan. And Hitachi Data Systems is a large organization with about 6,000 employees that operates in over 100 countries in the world. Greg, it's delightful to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Greg, let's start by talking about why a company might need a resuscitation and a renewal of its ethics programs. What do things sometimes look like in organizations?
I think in terms of our company, we were very fortunate because for the most part, we did business in countries where there was very little risk from an anti-corruption perspective. We had very few incidents of fraud in the company. And I think that the result was the company was rather complacent. Mm-hmm. Nothing is really broken here. So why do we really need compliance? Mm-hmm. In the case of some companies, in the case of our company, there was an external event which became a major catalyst for change and a recognition that whatever we had done before had to change and couldn't continue. It wasn't sustainable for the future. Not only that, but we were also entering new markets in emerging countries where there was an increased risk of corruption.
Now that you've got the senior management on board, the task is, of course, to communicate ethics and the ethical standards throughout an organization, particularly one with operating in 100 companies like Hitachi Data Systems does. Tell us something about what you did with the code and how you created a different way of communicating with your employees.
So I said, I'm the lowest common denominator in the company. If I can understand it, anyone can understand it. And I looked at our code and I said, some of this, and I'm a trained lawyer, some of this legalese, it's so obscure, I'm not really sure what we're trying to say. So the goal was take the code and put it into plain English in terms that anyone could understand. Not only did it need to be in plain English, but it needed to be in common words that could easily be translated into foreign languages, because we do business in so many different countries in the world. We needed to translate our code into those local languages. But I also wanted employees to get practical examples, and we thought that if we embedded little videos in the code which illustrated the point the policy was trying to make, people would say, oh, okay, I get it. And that's what we tried to achieve.
So it became an online document more than a printed document.
So it evolved from a printed book, which had some little printed scenarios in each chapter, which at the time we thought was cutting edge, to an online code, which became interactive. So when you read the code, at the end of each section, there'd be 3 or 4 icons. And if you put your cursor over one of the icons, if the section of the code was talking about the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, for example, and you put the cursor on one of those icons, it would immediately take you to our Foreign Corrupt Practices Act policy. So you could see the policy and kind of understand what that was all about. There would also be frequently asked questions. So these were questions we had sort of gathered over the years, and we'd put those in so people could get immediate answers to basic and routine questions.
Final question, Greg. What about the whole investigation and discipline process? Is that an important part of the renewal of an ethical commitment and ethical organization?
In my view, fundamentally important, but there are a few things I want to say about it. First of all, when you're coming at this from as a compliance person or maybe as an in-house counsel, you want to make the business a partner in the investigation. So when we approached investigations, and let's just say that there was a problem in the sales organization, that perhaps some kind of alleged fraud, we would first establish that the EVP of sales was not involved. As soon as we had established that, we reached out to him, explained the problem, and discussed the steps we would take with him and how we would keep him briefed along the lines. And we would discuss it with other executives in the sales organization as we cleared them. And so we made them part of the process. If at the end of the investigation the conclusion was that there had been wrongdoing, we didn't say, oh, you've got to fire that person. We said, now you've got to sit down with human resources, you have to evaluate the conduct and what the appropriate repercussions are. And we have a point of view, and if you want our point of view, we'd be glad to express it, but that should be your decision, and you should take it with your HR colleagues. So we always try to make the business part of the solution and make the final decision, whatever the sanction was going to be for the misconduct, a business-driven decision.
Greg, thank you very much for being with us and for talking about the kinds of changes that you have brought about at Hitachi Data Systems in the way that it manages ethics.